Iraq's armed forces claim they're in control of roads and infrastructure around the city. But the Kurdish regional government says its Peshmerga forces have pushed back at least 2 assaults by the army. The Iraqi government and the KRG have been at loggerheads since last month's controversial Kurdish independence referendum. While journalist Ammar Karim has been following the story from Baghdad, he says Iraq is targeting strategic locations in Kirkuk.
Well, honestly, it's a quick progress. As far as I was talking to our stringer there, they are almost on the edges of Kirkuk. Many of PUK forces have withdrawn without fight. PUK is the party of Talabani, and they are already divided among themselves, and they are against war. But they still massing their forces near Kirkuk, but they did not fight. It seems there is kind of agreement to withdraw. It's going to be a heavy fight because Barzani sent almost 3,000 fighters now to Kirkuk. Kirkuk is a very significant area because it's wealthy with oil. Iraqi forces have asked Barzani to hand over the authority of this multi-ethnic city to Iraqi authority. As you know, in 2014, this area has been controlled by the forces of Barzani. So, and now they want to cut it from Iraq. It's a very wealthy area, and they have Iraqi forces think it should be controlled by the federal government.
Well, Paul Roger is a professor of peace studies at the University of Bradford. He says the Kurdish regional government might be employing militants from the PKK terror group to defend its presence in Kirkuk.
It is possible. There have also been reports, admittedly from Kurdish sources, that there are very large numbers of volunteers within Kirkuk who are sort of joining the cause. The wider issue here, though, is that you do have a pretty basic disagreement between the Iraqi government, the federal government, and the Kurdish government. Essentially, much of it is about the status of Kirkuk in relation to the variable population, large number of Arabs and Turkmens, but also, of course, Kirkuk is so important, being at the key end of the Kirkuk-Mosul oil axis. And I think to some extent what we're seeing now is quite a lot of posturing with the risk of further outbreaks of violence as each side tries to prepare itself for possible negotiations. One suspects that neither the government in Baghdad nor the Kurdish authorities in Erbil actually want this to spill out into a major war, but each has a lot to gain from successful conclusions, which is why, in a way, this may be just the start of a difficult negotiating period. Obviously, the government in Baghdad was very unhappy about the referendum on the 25th of September, because that included the 3 more or less autonomous provinces and areas, including Kirkuk, which the Kurdish fighters had taken. And essentially that, as far as the Iraqi government was concerned, was really very much a step too far. But from Kurdish aspirations, it's absolutely important that they see themselves secure, which is in a sense what they're trying to gain at the present time. In the long term, I think one has to appreciate there are other factors involved. There is the Shia militia presence on the Iraqi government side, because one has to recall that the Iraqi army itself is frankly pretty weak. Its key forces, the so-called counter-terror service or Golden Division, the special forces, about 10,000 strong, were really quite badly crippled in the intense fighting with ISIS-Daesh in western Mosul. The end result of that is, in fact, the Iraqi army is not that strong now. And I think in some ways the Kurdish authorities know this, which is why they're pushing their point perhaps more than they would do. The danger of this, though, of course, is when you do have a high state of tension, you're in a period where, or to use the acronym AIM, accidents, incidents, mavericks, these are the 3 untoward things which could push you into a much greater conflict.